Hello everyone, I am very glad that you're joining this story. Subscribe, like and comment. Enjoy the story, smile more often.
They said I'd never earn that money back. Little did they know I already had. Let me introduce myself. I'm Emma Carter, a 35-year-old part-time teacher living in suburban Chicago with my husband, Tom, and our two kids. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was comfortable, or so I thought. It all started at one of those dreaded family dinners where everyone gathers around the table, pretending to care about each other's lives while secretly plotting world domination. Or in this case, an extravagant European vacation. My mother-in-law, Margaret, leaned forward with her signature smug grin. "Tommy," she began, using the nickname only she dared to use, "you two have been saving up for years. Why not splurge on something special? A once-in-a-lifetime trip?" Before I could protest, my father-in-law chimed in. "Besides, Emma's just a part-time teacher. She'll never earn that back anyway." The room fell silent as their words hung in the air like daggers. My cheeks burned with humiliation, but before I could respond, Tom nodded hesitantly. "Yeah, maybe it's time we treated ourselves." And just like that, our hard-earned savings vanished into thin air, or rather, into first-class tickets, luxury hotels, and Michelin-starred restaurants. As they boarded their cruise ship weeks later, waving goodbye from the deck, I stood there smiling sweetly. Inside, though, I was seething. But instead of lashing out, I decided to do something far more satisfying. Prove them wrong. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the bank statement on my phone. 5 figures gone in the blink of an eye. It wasn't just the money, it was the message behind it. To them, I was disposable, replaceable, irrelevant. Just another cog in the machine. But here's the thing. They didn't know me. They didn't know the fire burning inside me, the quiet ambition simmering beneath the surface. If they thought draining our savings would break me, they were dead wrong. Over the next few days, I replayed the conversation in my mind, dissecting every word, every tone. How dare they dismiss me so easily? How dare they assume I wouldn't fight back? And most importantly, how dare they take what wasn't theirs without even asking? Yet, despite my anger, I made a conscious decision not to confront them. Not yet. Instead, I chose to channel that energy into something productive. Something big. Something they'd never see coming. To understand why this stung so deeply, you need to know a little more about my relationship with Tom's family. Margaret and Dad, let's call him Richard, had always been, let's say, critical. From the moment I met them, they seemed determined to find fault in everything I did. Whether it was my career choice, my cooking skills, or even the way I disciplined the kids, nothing escaped their scrutiny. At first, I tried to brush it off. After all, they were older, wiser, and presumably meant well. But over time, their constant criticism wore me down. By the time of that fateful dinner, I'd grown accustomed to feeling like second best in their eyes. Still, hearing them dismiss my financial contributions outright, that cut deeper than anything else. You see, being a part-time teacher isn't exactly lucrative. Sure, I loved working with kids and helping them learn, but the paychecks weren't exactly generous. Tom, on the other hand, had a steady corporate job that brought in decent money. Together, we managed to save enough for a modest emergency fund and some future goals. Those savings represented months of sacrifice, skipping vacations, cutting back on luxuries, and pinching pennies wherever possible. And now it was gone. Poof! Just like that. The worst part was how casually they proposed the idea. Margaret hadn't even bothered to sugarcoat it. "No, are you sure? Or we can pay you back eventually." It was as if my contributions didn't matter, as if I didn't exist beyond the role of homemaker and mom. Richard wasn't much better. His comment about me never earning it back stung because it wasn't just dismissive, it was condescending. It implied that I lacked the capability, the drive, the intelligence to succeed professionally. In short, it stripped away any sense of self-worth I'd worked so hard to build. Tom, bless his heart, hadn't helped matters either. He'd agreed too quickly, too eagerly, without even consulting me privately. Maybe he felt pressured by his parents, or maybe he genuinely believed the trip was worth it. Either way, his lack of pushback left me feeling isolated and undervalued. As the days turned into weeks, I wrestled with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to lash out, to demand answers and accountability. Another part of me wondered if I deserved this treatment, if I really was as incapable as they seemed to think. But deep down, I knew the truth. They underestimated me. Badly. So, I resolved to prove them wrong. Not through confrontation, but through action. If they thought I couldn't amount to anything beyond teaching elementary school, I'd show them otherwise. And if they thought I'd sit idly by while they squandered our savings, they were in for a rude awakening. That night, as I stared at the glowing screen of my laptop, an idea began to form. What if I combined my passion for education with technology? An online tutoring platform tailored to busy professionals who couldn't afford traditional services sounded promising. Plus, it would allow me to work flexibly around my teaching schedule. Of course, starting such a venture wouldn't be easy. There would be obstacles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But for the first time in years, I felt alive, like I was finally taking control of my life instead of letting others dictate its course. As the in-laws waved goodbye from the cruise ship, I forced a smile, masking the storm brewing inside me. They had no idea what was coming, and when they found out, it would hit harder than any verbal retort ever could. 6 months after the vacation debacle, I found myself staring at the blank screen of my laptop late one night. Teaching paid the bills, sure, but it didn't leave much room for dreams or revenge. That's when inspiration struck. What if I combined my love for education with technology? An online tutoring platform tailored to busy professionals who couldn't afford traditional services sounded perfect. Plus, it would allow me to work flexibly around my teaching schedule. But first, I needed help. Enter Alex, an old college friend turned tech guru. We hadn't spoken in years, but I remembered how brilliant he was with coding and design. After a quick message exchange, we arranged to meet at a local cafe. When Alex walked in, coffee cup in hand, I launched straight into my pitch. Okay, here's the deal, I began, leaning across the table. I want to create an online tutoring platform that connects students with qualified tutors. Think of it as Uber for education. He raised an eyebrow. You got guts? Let's make it happen. With his support, I dove headfirst into research mode. Every spare moment became dedicated to learning everything I could about web development, marketing strategies, and user experience design. Nights stretched into early mornings as I balanced lesson plans for my students with brainstorming sessions for Edconnect, the name we eventually settled on. At first, progress felt slow. There were technical challenges, like figuring out payment systems, and logistical hurdles, such as recruiting reliable tutors. But Alex proved invaluable, guiding me through each obstacle with patience and humor. If this doesn't work, he joked one evening, we can always sell cookies door to door. Despite the long hours and occasional frustration, there was something exhilarating about creating something from scratch. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive, not just surviving, but thriving. Each milestone, no matter how small, fueled my determination further. By the end of the first month, we had a basic prototype ready. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Excited by our progress, I decided to test the waters locally, offering discounted rates to parents and working adults in the neighborhood. Word spread quickly, thanks to glowing reviews and word-of-mouth recommendations. One client, Sarah, a single mom juggling 2 jobs, wrote me an email that still gives me chills. Emma, thank you for making quality education accessible. Your platform has been a game changer for my son. He's finally understanding math. Her words reminded me why I started this journey, not just to prove my in-laws wrong, but to make a real difference in people's lives. That realization kept me going even during the toughest moments. Of course, success brought its own set of challenges. Competitors emerged almost immediately, some trying to undercut my prices or poach my best tutors. One particularly aggressive firm sent threatening emails accusing me of stealing their curriculum ideas. Panic set in until Alex reminded me why I started this in the first place. Don't let them win, Em. Keep pushing forward. So I did. With renewed determination, I launched new features, improved customer service, and partnered with influential educators. Slowly but surely, Edconnect gained traction, attracting more clients and expanding its reach. Meanwhile, the in-laws remained blissfully unaware of my secret venture. They returned from their vacation, boasting endlessly about their luxurious experiences, completely oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. As the months passed, I reflected on how far I'd come. From a part-time teacher struggling to feel valued to the founder of a burgeoning business, I'd proven to myself, and soon, to them, that I was capable of far more than anyone ever believed. But the question lingered. When and how would they find out? By the end of the first year, Edconnect had gained traction among local parents and working adults. Positive reviews poured in, and word-of-mouth marketing worked wonders. Still, I kept my venture under wraps, knowing how Margaret and Richard might react. One evening, Tom stumbled upon my notes during a rare quiet moment at home. His eyes widened as he flipped through pages filled with sketches of website layouts, financial projections, and client testimonials. Emma, is this real? It's real, I admitted cautiously, setting down my coffee mug. But please don't say anything to your parents. Not yet, he smiled proudly, pulling me into a hug. Of course not. This is amazing, babe. You're incredible. His support meant everything, even though I worried it might strain his relationship with his family. For now, though, I focused on growing Edconnect, one client at a time. The next morning, I received an email from a potential investor who'd heard about our platform through a mutual contact. Intrigued, they requested a meeting to discuss funding opportunities. My heart raced as I prepared for the call, rehearsing answers to every possible question. When the video conference began, I introduced myself confidently, walking them through Edconnect's mission, growth trajectory, and future plans. By the end of the presentation, their interest was undeniable. We're impressed, the lead investor said warmly. Your approach is innovative, and your passion shines through. Let's talk numbers. Over the following weeks, we negotiated terms, ultimately securing a significant investment that would allow us to expand nationally. It felt surreal, like stepping into a dream version of myself. But beneath the excitement lay a nagging fear. What if I failed? What if I let everyone down? Alex noticed my hesitation during one of our brainstorming sessions. Hey, he said gently, placing a hand on my shoulder. You've already done more than most people ever will. Don't sell yourself short. His words stuck with me, reminding me why I started this journey in the first place. Not for validation, but for empowerment. As Edconnect grew, so did the challenges. Scaling operations required hiring additional staff, upgrading technology, and navigating regulatory hurdles. There were days when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me, when doubt crept in and whispered that maybe I wasn't cut out for this world. But then I'd remember Sarah's email, the single mom whose son finally understood math, and pushed forward. One particularly tough week, a tutor accused me of favoritism after assigning higher-paying clients to another instructor. The accusation stung, especially since I prided myself on fairness. Instead of reacting impulsively, I scheduled a private meeting to address their concerns directly. I hear you, I said calmly, making eye contact. And I want to assure you that decisions are based solely on experience and availability. If there's anything specific you'd like to improve, I'm here to help. Her expression softened, and by the end of the conversation, she apologized for jumping to conclusions. Moments like these reinforce my belief in open communication and empathy as tools for leadership. Around this time, Tom's parents invited us to dinner at their house, a rare occurrence given their usual preference for formal settings. As we sat around the table, enjoying steaks and wine, Margaret casually mentioned their upcoming anniversary cruise. Another trip? Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. Aren't you tired of traveling? Richard chuckled. Not when you can afford it, son. Life's too short to skimp on luxuries. I forced a polite smile, hiding the storm brewing inside me. How could they justify such extravagance while dismissing the hard work it took to save for those trips? And yet, I reminded myself, patience was key. Their reckoning was coming, just not today. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, I reflected on how far I'd come. From a part-time teacher struggling to feel valued to the founder of a thriving business, I'd proven to myself, and soon, to them, that I was capable of far more than anyone ever believed. Success brought its own set of problems. As Edconnect expanded, so did the expectations and the pressure. Competitors emerged, some trying to undercut my prices or poach my best tutors. One particularly aggressive firm sent threatening emails accusing me of stealing their curriculum ideas. Panic set in until Alex reminded me why I started this in the first place. Don't let them win, Em. Keep pushing forward. So I did. With renewed determination, I launched new features, improved customer service, and partnered with influential educators. Slowly but surely, Edconnect became a force to reckon with. But growth came with growing pains. Scaling operations required hiring additional staff, upgrading technology, and navigating regulatory hurdles. There were days when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me, when doubt crept in and whispered that maybe I wasn't cut out for this world. But then I'd remember Sarah's email, the single mom whose son finally understood math, and pushed forward. One particularly tough week, a tutor accused me of favoritism after assigning higher-paying clients to another instructor. The accusation stung, especially since I prided myself on fairness. Instead of reacting impulsively, I scheduled a private meeting to address their concerns directly. I hear you, I said calmly, making eye contact. And I want to assure you that decisions are based solely on experience and availability. If there's anything specific you'd like to improve, I'm here to help. Her expression softened, and by the end of the conversation, she apologized for jumping to conclusions. Moments like these reinforced my belief in open communication and empathy as tools for leadership. Meanwhile, Tom's parents continued their lavish lifestyle, oblivious to the quiet revolution brewing beneath their noses. At a family gathering one weekend, Margaret casually mentioned another upcoming trip, a safari in Africa this time. Another adventure? Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. Aren't you tired of traveling? Richard chuckled. Not when you can afford it, son. Life's too short to skimp on luxuries. I forced a polite smile, hiding the storm brewing inside me. How could they justify such extravagance while dismissing the hard work it took to save for those trips? And yet, I reminded myself, patience was key. Their reckoning was coming, just not today. As Edconnect gained national attention, I began receiving offers from larger companies interested in acquiring the platform. Some were tempting, promising financial security and reduced responsibility. But something held me back, a gut feeling that my journey wasn't over yet. Instead, I focused on expanding our reach through strategic partnerships and innovative marketing campaigns. We introduced live workshops, interactive quizzes, and personalized learning plans, all designed to enhance the user experience. Feedback poured in, overwhelmingly positive, fueling my determination further. But success also meant increased scrutiny. A rival company filed a lawsuit alleging intellectual property theft, claiming we had copied their teaching methods. Though baseless, the accusation tied up valuable resources and energy. For weeks, I worked tirelessly alongside our legal team, compiling evidence and preparing defenses. In the end, the case was dismissed, but the ordeal left me shaken. It was a harsh reminder that success often invites envy and sometimes hostility. Through it all, I remained committed to keeping Edconnect a secret from my in-laws. Tom supported me fully, shielding me from unnecessary questions while subtly deflecting any mention of finances. Still, the weight of the deception pressed down on me at times, making me wonder if revealing the truth might be easier than living a double life. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching TV, Tom broke the silence. You know, he began thoughtfully, they're going to find out eventually. Maybe sooner rather than later. I sighed, setting aside my laptop. I know, but timing is everything. Let them enjoy their ignorance while they can. He laughed softly, pulling me closer. Whatever you decide, I've got your back. You're incredible. Don't ever forget that. His words warmed me, reinforcing the bond we shared despite the challenges. Together, we would face whatever came next, whether it involved celebrations or confrontations. By the end of the second year, Edconnect had grown exponentially, earning recognition from industry leaders and media outlets alike. Yet, the moment of revelation still lingered just out of reach, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. 2 years into running Edconnect, I received an email that changed everything. A journalist from Forbes wanted to feature me in an upcoming article about disruptors in education technology. At first, I balked at the idea. Me? In Forbes? It seemed surreal. But after speaking with the writer, I realized this was my chance to show the world, and especially my in-laws, that I wasn't just a part-time teacher. The process was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Interviews, photo shoots, and endless edits consumed my schedule for weeks. When the issue finally hit newsstands, I bought several copies, savoring the sight of my face on the glossy cover. The headline read, "From Classroom to Boardroom: How One Teacher Revolutionized Education Technology." But with pride came anxiety. How long before Margaret and Richard stumbled upon it? It happened sooner than expected. During a routine grocery run, Margaret spotted the magazine on a rack near the checkout line. Her jaw dropped as she stared at the cover, then flipped through the pages, reading about my journey and achievements. Back home, she confronted me during dinner. "Emma, is this true? Did you really build all this?" "Yes," I replied calmly, meeting her gaze. "And guess what? Your precious vacation was quite the investment." Silence filled the room as reality sank in. For once, their usual smugness faltered, replaced by disbelief and embarrassment. Richard cleared his throat awkwardly. "Well, we had no idea." Margaret chimed in quickly, attempting damage control. "Of course not. We always knew you were capable, dear. Just busy, you know." Their attempts at backpedaling only fueled my satisfaction. After years of being dismissed, underestimated, and overlooked, they finally saw me for who I truly was, a force to be reckoned with. Tom, bless him, stepped in before things escalated further. Mom, Dad, Emma has worked incredibly hard for this. Maybe it's time we celebrated her success instead of tearing her down. His words carried weight, silencing any retorts they might have prepared. Instead, they mumbled apologies, promising to support me moving forward. Whether their newfound respect was genuine or forced remained to be seen. But for now, I chose to accept their words at face value. In the days that followed, life felt different. Strangers stopped me in the supermarket to congratulate me on the article. Colleagues at school expressed admiration for my accomplishments. Even students noticed the change, asking questions about entrepreneurship and innovation. Yet, amidst the praise, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Had proving them wrong truly brought me peace, or did lingering resentment still simmer beneath the surface? One evening, as I sat alone in my office, I reflected on the journey that led me here. From a part-time teacher struggling to feel valued to the founder of a multi-million-dollar enterprise, I'd come farther than I ever dreamed possible. But the victory felt bittersweet, not because of the recognition, but because of the cost. Had I sacrificed too much in pursuit of validation? Was forgiveness worth extending to people who had so deeply hurt me? These questions lingered, unresolved, as I prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. As the dust settled, I realized one thing clearly. Their opinions no longer defined me. Success wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't payback, it's progress. Days passed, and the in-laws apologized profusely. They claimed ignorance, insisting they hadn't realized how deeply their comments had hurt me. Part of me wanted to forgive them, for Tom's sake, but another part lingered in doubt. Was forgiveness enough? Or should I hold onto my anger, letting it fuel my continued success? The question haunted me during quiet moments alone, when the noise of celebration faded and introspection took over. Margaret and Richard had spent years dismissing me, undermining my worth, and devaluing my contributions. Could I simply erase those memories because they finally acknowledged my achievements? Tom noticed my internal struggle one evening as we unpacked groceries together. "You okay?" he asked gently, sensing my tension. "I don't know," I admitted, setting down a carton of eggs. Part of me feels like forgiving them would be the right thing to do. But another part wonders if it's just giving them permission to repeat the same mistakes. He nodded thoughtfully, leaning against the counter. "Maybe forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. Letting go of resentment doesn't mean excusing what they did. It means freeing yourself from the weight of carrying it." His words resonated deeply, forcing me to confront truths I'd buried beneath layers of ambition and pride. Had my journey been driven by a desire for revenge, or was it truly about self-empowerment? If the latter, why did their apologies feel so hollow? To gain perspective, I reached out to Alex, who'd become more than just a business partner. He was a trusted confidant. Over coffee at our favorite cafe, I spilled everything. Their betrayal, my triumph, and the conflicting emotions swirling inside me. "Forgiveness is hard," he said after listening intently, "especially when people have hurt you repeatedly. But holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting them to suffer. Are you ready to let go?" I mulled over his analogy long after we parted ways. He was right. Anger served no purpose beyond perpetuating pain. Yet, could I truly forgive them without feeling like I was condoning their behavior? A breakthrough came unexpectedly during a family dinner a few weeks later. Margaret, perhaps sensing my hesitation, made an effort to include me in conversations, asking genuine questions about Edconnect's future plans. Her curiosity caught me off guard, softening some of my defenses. "I never realized how much work went into building something like this," she admitted quietly as dessert plates were cleared away. "You've accomplished something extraordinary, Emma. I'm proud of you." Her admission felt strange yet strangely satisfying. For the first time, I saw vulnerability beneath her usual facade, a reminder that even those who hurt us most are human, flawed, and capable of change. Still, forgiveness didn't come easily. It required patience, reflection, and a willingness to accept imperfection. Over time, I learned to separate their actions from their intentions, recognizing that their dismissals stemmed not from malice, but from ingrained biases and assumptions. By the end of the year, our relationship had shifted, not into perfect harmony, but into something resembling mutual respect. Margaret and Richard attended Edconnect events, cheering alongside Tom as I introduced new initiatives. Their support, though late, meant more than I expected. Yet, questions remained. Had I truly forgiven them? Or had I simply chosen peace over bitterness? And what of the lingering doubts about their sincerity? These uncertainties lingered, unresolved, reminding me that healing isn't linear. It's cyclical, requiring constant effort and understanding. As I stood outside my office overlooking the city skyline, I realized one truth clearly. Success wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't payback. It's progress. Ultimately, I chose to move forward. Accepting their apology didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing peace over bitterness. Besides, I had bigger fish to fry, expanding Edconnect globally and exploring new ventures. Tom stood by me every step of the way, proving that love conquers even the toughest family dynamics. Our bond grew stronger through shared challenges and triumphs, reminding me that partnerships thrive not despite differences but because of them. As the months passed, I found myself reflecting on the changes within me and around me. Margaret and Richard, though still far from perfect, made genuine efforts to support my endeavors. They attended Edconnect events, asked thoughtful questions during family gatherings, and occasionally offered unsolicited advice, which I mostly ignored. Their transformation wasn't complete, nor was mine, but progress felt like enough. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching our kids play in the backyard, Tom turned to me with a smile. "You know," he began, "I used to worry about how your success might change us. But instead, it's brought us closer." His words warmed me, reinforcing the bond we shared despite external pressures. Together, we faced whatever came next, whether it involved celebrations or confrontations. Meanwhile, Edconnect continued its upward trajectory. We launched international partnerships, introduced cutting-edge AI-driven tools, and expanded our reach into underserved communities worldwide. Each milestone reminded me why I started this journey, not for revenge, but for impact. If my platform could help one child understand math or empower one parent to pursue further education, then all the sacrifices were worth it. But growth also meant letting go of control. As the company scaled, I delegated more responsibilities, trusting others to carry the torch alongside me. At first, relinquishing power felt uncomfortable, like stepping off a tightrope without a net. But gradually, I learned to embrace collaboration, recognizing that true leadership isn't about doing everything yourself, but inspiring others to excel. Through it all, I remained grounded by the people who mattered most, my family, friends, and team members who believed in me when I doubted myself. Their unwavering support fueled my determination, reminding me that no success is achieved alone. Still, moments of doubt crept in occasionally. Was I chasing too much? Sacrificing too little? The balancing act between ambition and contentment proved challenging, requiring constant recalibration. Yet, each challenge taught me something valuable about resilience, humility, and the importance of staying true to oneself. By the end of the third year, Edconnect had become a household name in education technology circles. Awards poured in, media coverage skyrocketed, and opportunities abounded. But amidst the accolades, I clung to one truth. Success isn't defined by external validation. It's shaped by internal fulfillment. During a rare quiet moment at home, I pulled out an old photo album, flipping through pictures of simpler times. There we were, a young couple just starting out, dreaming of stability and happiness. Who could have predicted where life would take us? Tom joined me on the couch, peering over my shoulder. "Look at us now," he said softly. "We've come so far." "We sure have," I replied, closing the album with a smile. "And there's still so much farther to go." Looking back, I realize now that their dismissal was a blessing in disguise. If they hadn't underestimated me, I might never have discovered my true potential. Life isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't payback. It's success. Looking back, I realize now that their dismissal was a blessing in disguise. If they hadn't underestimated me, I might never have discovered my true potential. Life isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't payback. It's success. Today, as I sit in my office overlooking the city skyline, I feel grateful. Not for their betrayal, but for the strength it gave me. Success isn't defined by external validation. It's shaped by internal fulfillment. The journey hasn't been easy. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering that I wasn't good enough, that I'd fail spectacularly. But each challenge taught me something valuable about resilience, perseverance, and the importance of staying true to oneself. Along the way, I learned to separate who I am from what others think of me. Their opinions no longer define me because I've come to know myself better than anyone else ever could. Edconnect has grown beyond anything I imagined. A global platform connecting students with tutors across continents, breaking barriers of geography and socioeconomic status. The impact we've made fills me with pride, not just because of the numbers or the awards, but because of the lives we've touched. Every email from a grateful parent, every testimonial from a student who once struggled but now thrives, reminds me why I started this in the first place. But success doesn't mean perfection. Even now, there are days when exhaustion threatens to overwhelm me, when the weight of responsibility feels crushing. On those days, I remind myself of Tom's words, "You're incredible, Em." Don't ever forget that. His unwavering support keeps me grounded, reminding me that no matter how far I've come, I'm still human, and that's okay. Relationships have evolved too. Margaret and Richard, though still works in progress, have shown genuine efforts to understand and support me. Their apologies weren't perfect, nor were mine, but perfection isn't the goal. Growth is. By choosing forgiveness, I freed myself from the chains of resentment, allowing space for new beginnings. Whether they fully grasp the depth of their past actions remains uncertain, but their attempts at change give me hope that people can evolve, even late in life. Tom and I, meanwhile, have grown closer through shared challenges and triumphs. Our partnership thrives not despite our differences, but because of them. He balances my ambition with his pragmatism, grounding me when I lose sight of priorities. Together, we face whatever comes next, whether it involves celebrations or confrontations, with unity and purpose. As for the future, it's wide open. Expanding Edconnect globally remains a priority, but so does exploring new ventures. Education technology is just the beginning. Imagine the possibilities if we apply similar principles to healthcare, environmental sustainability, or social justice. The world needs innovators willing to tackle its biggest problems, and I intend to be one of them. Yet, amidst the excitement, I remain mindful of balance. Family, friends, and self-care anchor me, preventing me from losing sight of what truly matters. Success without happiness is hollow. After all, and happiness, I've learned, stems not from achievements alone, but from meaningful connections and inner peace. To all of you watching, if my story resonates with you, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. It's shaped by your choices, your resilience, and your ability to rise above adversity. Sometimes, the greatest victories aren't measured in dollars or accolades, but in the quiet knowledge that you've lived authentically, pursued your passions, and contributed to the world in your own unique way. Life isn't linear, it's cyclical. Challenges arise, lessons are learned, and growth occurs. Each cycle brings new opportunities for connection, understanding, and transformation. And while some questions may remain unanswered, the journey itself holds infinite value. Thank you for joining me on this ride. Here's to believing in ourselves and each other. 5 years after launching Edconnect, 10 years since discovering my in-laws' scheme to drain our savings, and countless lessons later, I find myself sitting in the same diner where it all began, Mama Lou's. It's been renovated since I left, modernized with sleek countertops and trendy decor, but the heart of the place remains unchanged. The smell of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee still lingers in the air, a comforting reminder of where I came from. I'm here to meet Sarah, who suggested we catch up over breakfast. She's been a constant presence throughout my journey, offering wisdom and perspective when I needed it most. Over pancakes and orange juice, she asked me a question that stops me in my tracks. "Emma," she says thoughtfully, "do you ever think about what might have happened if things had gone differently? If Margaret and Richard hadn't convinced Tom to use your savings? Or if you'd stayed at Mama Lou's forever?" The question hangs in the air, heavy with possibility. For a moment, I consider the alternate realities, the paths not taken, the choices unmade. Then I shake my head slowly. No, I reply honestly, because every step led me here. Every struggle, every victory, every mistake, it all shaped who I am today. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Her smile is warm, approving. "That's maturity right there," she says softly. "Accepting the past without letting it define you." Later that afternoon, as I walk through the park near my office, I think about the people who've shaped my life. Tom, Margaret, Richard, Alex, even strangers whose lives intersected briefly with mine. Each of them played a role in my journey, whether they realized it or not. Some pushed me forward, Others held me back. But ultimately, it was my decision to rise above their expectations, or lack thereof. Margaret passed away 2 years ago, peacefully in her sleep. Her death forced us all to confront the fragility of time and the importance of connection. At her funeral, Richard stood beside me, holding my hand as we said goodbye to the woman who'd once dismissed me so casually. In those moments, I felt a strange sense of closure. Not forgiveness for everything, but acceptance of the imperfections that made her human. Richard, now retired, has become someone I barely recognize, a man driven by humility rather than pride, guided by gratitude rather than entitlement. We don't always agree, and there are days when old wounds flare up unexpectedly. But we've learned to navigate those moments with patience and understanding, knowing that relationships aren't built on perfection, but on effort. As I sit on a bench overlooking the lake, I think about the future. What comes next? Is there another chapter waiting for me? Another challenge to overcome? Another dream to chase? Or is this enough? This quiet satisfaction of knowing I've lived authentically, pursued my passions, and contributed to the world in my own small way? The answer, I realize, doesn't matter. Life isn't about destinations. It's about the journey, about the people we meet, the lessons we learn, and the growth we experience along the way. Success, love, and happiness aren't static. They're fluid, evolving with us as we move through life. Just then, Tom appears beside me, carrying a cup of coffee. "Mind if I join you?" he asks, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "Of course not," I say, scooting over to make room. We sit in silence for a while, watching the ducks paddle lazily across the water. Eventually he speaks. He says quietly, "I used to think success was about being better than everyone else, about proving I was worthy. But now I realize it's about being true to yourself, about finding peace in who you are, regardless of what anyone else thinks." His words strike a chord deep within me. They echo my own thoughts, my own journey towards self-acceptance. For the first time, I see him not just as my husband, but as an equal, a fellow traveler navigating the complexities of life. "I agree," I say finally. "And maybe that's the best kind of success there is." He smiles, and for once it's genuine. Not smug, not condescending, but simply happy. In that moment, I feel something shift between us, a final piece of the puzzle falling into place. As the sun sets behind the trees, casting golden light over the lake, I realize something profound. Healing isn't linear. It's cyclical, repeating itself in different forms throughout our lives. We hurt, we heal, we grow, and then we do it all over again. But each cycle brings new insights, new opportunities for connection and understanding. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. A decade after my in-laws drained our savings, I stand here, not bitter, not vengeful, but grateful. Grateful for the challenges that forced me to grow, for the people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and for the opportunities that came from embracing uncertainty. Today, as I look back on the journey that began with a single idea scribbled on a napkin at Mama Lou's, I see more than just a business empire or a magazine cover. I see a tapestry woven from moments of struggle, triumph, and transformation. Each thread represents a lesson learned, a connection made, a dream realized. Edconnect has grown into something far greater than I ever imagined. A global platform connecting students with tutors across continents, breaking barriers of geography and socioeconomic status. But beyond the numbers, the accolades, and the financial success lies a deeper truth. This venture was never just about education. It was about empowerment, about showing the world, and myself, that anyone can achieve greatness if they're willing to fight for it. And yet, despite all we've accomplished, I know there's still work to be done. The world is full of challenges waiting to be solved, problems begging for innovative solutions. Education technology is only the beginning. Imagine what we could achieve if we applied similar principles to healthcare, environmental sustainability, or social justice. These are the causes that keep me awake at night, fueling my determination to make a difference. But success isn't measured solely by impact. It's also defined by balance. Even now, there are days when the weight of responsibility feels overwhelming. Days when doubt creeps in, whispering that I'm not good enough, that I'll fail spectacularly. On those days, I remind myself of Tom's words, "You're incredible, Em." Don't ever forget that. His unwavering support keeps me grounded, reminding me that no matter how far I've come, I'm still human, and that's okay. Relationships have evolved too. Margaret and Richard, though imperfect, have shown genuine efforts to understand and support me. Their apologies weren't perfect, nor were mine, but perfection isn't the goal. Growth is. By choosing forgiveness, I freed myself from the chains of resentment, allowing space for new beginnings. Whether they fully grasp the depth of their past actions remains uncertain, but their attempts at change give me hope that people can evolve, even late in life. Tom and I, meanwhile, have grown closer through shared challenges and triumphs. Our partnership thrives not despite our differences, but because of them. He balances my ambition with his pragmatism, grounding me when I lose sight of priorities. Together, we face whatever comes next, whether it involves celebrations or confrontations, with unity and purpose. As for the future, it's wide open. Expanding Edconnect globally remains a priority, but so does exploring new ventures. My hope is to leave behind a legacy not just of innovation, but of inspiration, to show others, especially women and marginalized communities, that they too can rise above adversity and create meaningful change. To all of you watching, if my story resonates with you, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. It's shaped by your choices, your resilience, and your ability to rise above adversity. Sometimes, the greatest victories aren't measured in dollars or accolades, but in the quiet knowledge that you've lived authentically, pursued your passions, and contributed to the world in your own unique way. Life isn't linear, it's cyclical. Challenges arise, lessons are learned, and growth occurs. Each cycle brings new opportunities for connection, understanding, and transformation. And while some questions may remain unanswered, the journey itself holds infinite value. One evening, as I sit alone in my office overlooking the city skyline, I reflect on the person I've become. From a part-time teacher struggling to feel valued to the founder of a multi-million-dollar enterprise, I've come farther than I ever dreamed possible. But the victory feels bittersweet, not because of the recognition, but because of the cost. Had proving them wrong truly brought me peace? Or did lingering resentment still simmer beneath the surface? The answer, I realized, doesn't matter. What matters is this. I chose to define myself, not by their expectations, but by my own values. And in doing so, I found freedom. Do you think Emma's journey reflects universal truths about resilience, family, and self-worth? Share your thoughts below.